All right, it is time to begin. As I was saying just a few minutes ago, thank you so much for everybody who is attending today. We got a lot of people still filing in, so that is great. I'll just give them just a second to kind of join as I kind of let you know what is going on. As I mentioned, everyone is muted right now. I'm forcing everyone to be muted so I can give the presentation. If you have questions, please just type them into chat. What I want to do today is I want to give the presentation kind of quickly so that we'll have plenty of time for questions, because I think when you start talking about self-publishing, asking questions is one of the biggest things. And so since I can't guess your skill level, I don't know where you're at in self-publishing. I have taken the presentation to be pretty basic, as if somebody was just starting, but if somebody later on has questions, that are a little bit more advanced, then of course we can handle those when we ask questions. So yeah, just really awesome. A lot of people are joining right now. So that is great. So let's get them in, and then I'll just get started here in just a second. So yeah, good morning. Thank you for joining. This is the low to no cost self-publishing seminar. I am going to go ahead and get started, and we'll keep adding people as we go along. So first off, my name is Matt. I run the website dicegeeks.com. I have been self-publishing since, I guess it was the end of 2015. And it's transformed my life, really changed a lot of things in my life. So I have like 24 books right now out. I have like 70 some products on DriveThruRPG. And so this is, self-publishing is my thing. So I thank you. Okay, well, we got a lot of people joining. So that is great. So I'll just pause for a second so I don't have to introduce myself again. And we've got a lot of people joining. Thank you so much for joining. So as I was saying, my name is Matt. I started publishing at the end of self-publishing at the end of 2015. On DriveThruRPG, I have 24 books, I have like 70 products on DriveThruRPG. I have one Mithril seller. If you know DriveThruRPG, they have the medals. I have one that's in the Mithril seller category, and I have 8 that are platinum, and I have 2 Amazon best-selling books as well. Again, some more people joining. Thank you so much for joining this morning. And we'll just pause for a sec just to let everybody kind of get in there. So this is just a little about me. How I want to do the seminar, like I said, I want to make sure I give a lot of time for questions. You can type those into the chat really at any time. And if I can wait and answer them, I will probably wait and answer most of them after I get done with the presentation. The presentation should be very short. And then I want to give a lot of time for questions. Also, I'm going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to talk about some kind of big picture things, some mindset ideas that you need to think about when you go into self-publishing. And then I will be giving some kind of tips to keep the cost as low as possible, some kind of ideas that you can use to keep the cost as low as possible. So we're just going to go ahead and dive in here, and so I can give as much time for questions later as possible. All right, like I said, this is kind of the big picture stuff. You really need to kind of think about why you're doing this, okay? Because self-publishing, while it's easier than ever before in the history of the world, obviously, it is still not easy. It is still going to be a lot of work, and especially if you want to keep the cost down. So think about why you're doing this. Is it a strong strong why, right? I think it's a Nietzsche quote. He said, "A man with a strong why can endure almost any how," right? So um, um, it is a very important thing to to uh, to know why you are doing this, and because you are going to uh, really face some challenges. And my why started in 2014. Really, a friend of mine passed away. We had played RPGs together, and we had play tested. He was one of my play testers on a game that I had created back when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. And at his funeral, I was seeing old friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And we were talking about the game. We were talking about, oh, you remember when we used to play that game? And people were asking me like, oh, what did you ever do with that? Did you publish it or whatever? And I was like, no, like I stuck it in a drawer somewhere. So my why started because I got the kind of the fire again, and I wanted to publish my RPG and put my friend's name in it and say this, hey, this is dedicated to Shane because we had such good times play testing this game back in the day. And so that was kind of my why. And it changed over time. And that's kind of the next section. So got to be clear on why we're doing this, or we're going to run into trouble later on. Number two, really, what are your goals and what do you want to accomplish, right? This is so important. I know this is the kind of part that's kind of up there and seems a little out there, and you want to, we have a tendency to want to skip into what are the tactics, what are the strategies, how can I do this, but like if you don't know what your goals are and what you want to accomplish, it's going to be very difficult for you to do really anything. And also, depending on your goals and what you want to accomplish, this is where, it's going to answer some of those questions usually that have the word should in it. Should I publish my book in on this platform? Well, I don't know, right? What is your goal? What do you want to accomplish with that, right? So a lot of those questions can be answered. So be clear on your goals and what you want to accomplish, and they can change, right? My first goal, right, was to have a book in my hand where I could write my friend's name in it. Well, then it changed to, could I make $100 a month doing this? Then it changed, could I make $500 a month doing this? And then my goals have just kept on changing from there, and on and on and on. So these are just really important to have down so you're clear with these, because we're going to come into some challenges. And when we start really getting into the nitty gritty of self-publishing. There are some keys here. Number one, don't get overwhelmed. Okay. If you imagine the end goal of, of even just a book, one book or one project kind of completed, that can be overwhelming in itself. But, we need to break down all of our tasks into little bitty bite-sized pieces that we can tackle around jobs, around families, around other responsibilities, because that's usually where we find ourselves, right? And so if this is a side project, obviously, you're not going to want to, get overwhelmed by looking at the end of saying something like, oh, how do I get all of these books or something published, or how do I get all of these things, published? You want to break things down into little pieces that you can handle at the time that you start, right? And then we want to do the best that we can do, right? The best that you can do, the best that I can do. We're not, if we're keeping things at low cost as possible, we're not going to be able to do the best that Wizards of the Coast can do, right? I mean, that's just a fact. And that doesn't mean our stuff has to be bad. It just means I can't do as well. I can't do as good of a job as, a company with a team of hundreds of people working on a book, right? I mean, I can't do that. So I'm going to do the best that I can do. And, if you want to criticize that, you can, but that's the best that I can do. And I'm going to get better. And that's what, that's the kind of mindset that we need to have. And the other key to keeping costs low is that we're probably going to have to do everything ourselves. Right? If you start talking about hiring people, well, there's money. If you ask people favors, what's the problem with asking people favors, right? Their why is probably not going to be as strong as your why, right? And so they're just not going to be able to accomplish what you're asking them to do if you're asking them a favor. You know, you're going to have to do pretty much everything yourself if you want to keep the cost as low as possible. Okay. And this, when I first started out, right, this even meant like I didn't have another person to proofread some of my stuff, right? Like I just had to publish things without it being proofread because I couldn't get anybody to proofread it, because I was doing everything myself, keeping costs low. People didn't understand what I was doing at the time, family and friends. So I just had to keep the cost as low as possible. Now, as time evolved, I can, as time has gone on, I can have, I have people who will proofread it, things for me now because they understand what I'm doing. And that, so these are just some keys to keep in mind when you're going to start self-publishing. All right, so here is kind of what I'm lining out. Like I said, I don't know anybody's skill level, so this is just a very basic presentation. We can ask more advanced questions in chat. And I really, like I said, I really want to give a lot of people time to ask questions. So my number one advice would be to start small. If you are not a rock star game designer in the community that has worked at Wizards of the Coast and other companies, for years, and you have a following of people who like your design work, you should really start small. If you have no experience ever before publishing anything, start small. And make small things. Don't tackle the 300-page book, right? Starts with very, very small things, a page, 2 pages, items that have, 10 pages, something like that, something small that you can manage and that you can really, put a lot of effort to, but also get kind of that success hit of being able, like, hey, I finished this thing. Now, I would recommend, if you're just starting out, 2 platforms, DriveThruRPG, DM's Guild. I would recommend on focusing on one of those platforms, okay? Because these are both free to publish on, and but they have different audiences, right? So if you are going to really dive into the IP of Dungeons and Dragons and you really want to use, you want to make something that's based on Ravenloft, or you want to make something that's based on Eberron, well, then you're going to start publishing on the DM's Guild. If you have something that is, a generic setting or something that's for a different game or an original campaign setting, you're going to publish that on DriveThruRPG. And these are free to publish on. And so you don't have to have any outlay there with cash or anything like that. You can just create accounts pretty simply and easily on DriveThru or DM's Guild, depending on your strategy. And then I recommend digital products only. Start with digital products. Moving into print books can be confusing. And there's some costs involved there, depending on what platform you publish on. If you want to publish on Amazon, there wouldn't be any costs. DriveThruRPG, you can upload there and there's no cost, but there is some formatting things that might cost you a little bit of money if you move into print. So I would definitely say stick to digital products, start small, and work on those products and kind of hone yourself, practice. If you haven't been writing in a while, get into the habit of writing, hone your writing on some small things before you start thinking about tackling some kind of big project. And the next thing here, these are some softwares. Obviously, some of you may be very familiar with these. if you are trying to keep your costs low as possible, like I said, you're probably going to have to do almost everything yourself. So Photoshop and some of these other products are very expensive. So GIMP is a image manipulating or an image editing software. It is totally free. You can download that online. If you've never used an image editing software, it can be a little intimidating, but there are tutorials for GIMP on YouTube, just tons and tons of tutorials on how to use it. Look for ones that are small, like there'll be one that's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 8-minute long tutorials that show you how to use little things in there. So you can edit images for free in GIMP, which is really helpful. There's also another program called Scribus. This is a layout software. It is free, completely free. It's equivalent. The paid equivalent would be Adobe InDesign, but Scribus is free. Again, there are tutorials on YouTube. This is what, GIMP and Scribus are what I started out with when I kind of made a jump into trying to do a little bit more creative layouts and creative images, but also Google Docs or even Word. If you're doing digital products on DriveThruRPG and you're starting small and you have a 5-page or a 10-page product that you're going to release just in a PDF form, you can do all of that in Google Docs. You can do the entire layout. You can put in images. You can design a cover in Google Docs. You can do it in Word as well. And you can just save that as a PDF. And so I put Google Docs on here because it's free. You can just sign up online. If you have a Gmail account or whatever, you just through your Google account, and you'll have Google Docs right there, and you can do everything in there. Like you don't even need GIMP or Scribus to do that. You can do the whole layout in Google Docs or even Word. And design a cover in Word. You can even do all of that for free there. The big thing is with Google Docs and Word, if your document is like 40 pages or longer than 40 pages or 50 pages, you will pull your hair out, right? You will start losing it. And that's where Scribus comes in handy, is where you can do layouts of longer books without running into the problems of those word processors. So those are just some, just quick softwares. You don't have to spend $80 a month buying the Adobe suite to be able to self-publish. You just don't have to do that. Okay, so somebody asked a question: when self-publishing paperback books, which companies are the best in your opinion to publish through? I've used Amazon before, but looking for our alternatives. I publish all of my paperbacks through Amazon and through DriveThruRPG. There is another place called Ingram Spark. That's going to cost you a setup fee each time you upload that, where Amazon does not charge you a setup fee. And going through DriveThruRPG for your paperback, you won't get charged the setup fee either, even though DriveThruRPG uses Ingram as their publisher, as their printer, I should say. Yes, and somebody posted in chat, mattdavis.com. Yes, that is me. And so those are my experience with paperback books. But like I said, if you're first starting, don't worry about paperback. Now, one beautiful thing, though, I will add about paperback and about technology, right, is print on demand. If you're not familiar with print on demand is, you upload your book, and whenever somebody buys it, that's when it's printed. So we no longer have to buy 1,000 copies of our book and stash them in our basement and then worry about how to sell them. So this is why you can self-publish for very low cost and even nothing, right? You can publish today. You can publish a paperback book today on Amazon for nothing. Some other platforms will charge you setup fees and things like that. But these are just some example softwares. Art. Everybody has the question about art. It's always about art. How do I get art? How do I have art? Art is so expensive. Art is expensive, and it should be, right? I mean, it's valuable. It's a valuable thing, and it takes time to create. So art should be expensive. But if we're going low cost, here are some options that we can do. First, stock art. Never, never, never just discount stock art. Never write it off. You are going to, you on Drive-Thru RPG, you can find some really awesome stock art, some like black and white, interior art only costs like $1 and stuff for some really great images, like of a ring or a goblin head, or or whatever. Some of them cost like $1.25 for those images. So that is really cheap. There's also some beautiful, beautiful color, full color images that could be used as covers that cost $10-20. So definitely do not discount buying stock art. But if you're still starting out and you're just putting out a few products, I would definitely recommend checking out some of these other options. So unsplash.com is a site where it's just photographers and artists and stuff just upload their pictures, and you can use those free, free of charge, without any rights issues or anything like that. That is a good place that I will often go, especially like what I'm saying. Like I was keeping kind of the intro, kind of really generic, so I could explain some things. There is, somebody in chat is posting a resource for the British Library about public domain images, and of course that is a great resource there. You can check that out in the chat. And my next one, of course, is public domain images. There are amazing images that have lapsed into the public domain and that we can use. We can use the greatest works of art in the world on our books, to put them on our covers, to use them on the interiors. I mean, we can do just amazing things. So, if you're doing a pirate themed adventure or book, you can use all the great paintings of Howard Pyle, right? There's all available for you to use because they're all in the public domain. And also, it just goes kind of on and on and on. You can put a Rembrandt on your cover, right? Because they're all in the public domain. So the issue with public domain images is that you just have to look for them, right? You have to search for them. You have to know where they're at. You have to, sift through some things. And obviously a great resource, again, somebody posted in chat, a great link. Also, Wiki Commons image search. If you just type in Wiki Commons and images, you'll go to the search and it will show you images that are in the public domain that you can use, and you can just sift through those and use those. And, I mean, sometimes people, want to talk about, oh, well, it doesn't look as good as original art and stuff. Well, I mean, number one, that's just not true. And number two, I mean, we're if I'm going low or no cost, if I don't have the money, right? Well, then why not use some of these resources that are available? I mean, if you're doing a Sword and Planet kind of adventure, kind of Edgar Rice Burroughs theme, guess what? A lot of the covers for his books and the interior art that were put in his books are in the public domain, and you can just use those, and it would give your book the feel of the flavor of the time period. So like one I did was a steampunk book. There's an artist, a French artist in the 1870s, 1880s, who drew all these amazing images that look totally steampunk. Well, I can use all those. I can just take those, use those. Of course, I give attribution that, it wasn't me that drew these pictures or whatever, but I attribute them and credit him. But like, they're just amazing. So stock art, free images at Unsplash or some other things, or the public domain images, a fantastic way to go when you are looking to keep your costs as low as possible. And like I said, I wanted to keep the presentation as short as I could. And so I could really open this up for questions. So we have like 35 minutes for questions. And that is really what I wanted. So please, if you have questions, please type those into chat and I will be asking, I will be reading these and answering these. So somebody said Wiki Commons has also has Creative Commons images, mostly scraped from Flickr, I'm sure, which sometimes can be used in commercial products. Always check the license. Yeah, absolutely. And fortunately, Wiki Commons always puts the license at the bottom. And if you're in different countries, I'm in the US, so if you're in a different country, definitely check the laws, the public domain laws that exist in your country. Some of them may not even apply, like they may not even recognize the public domain of some other author, so you may be able to use those. So just make sure you check that. But they're available and they're awesome. And so somebody asked about the difficulties filing taxes, or even how go about filing taxes after your first publication or two. Taxes, again, I guess I have to give the disclaimer, right? I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a lawyer. So this is for for entertainment value, but taxes in the US anywhere, it's completely simple. Totally simple, especially if you have another job. If you have like a full-time job where you're a computer programmer, you're an auto mechanic, whatever you do. If you have another job, if you get you do have to report any income, like $1, a penny. You do have to report any other income. You probably won't pay taxes on that, but like you do have to report any income. So just from wherever you sell those, like on DriveThruRPG or Amazon or another platform, Ingram, you'll get a report from them, or you can get a report from them, or you'll just get the number and you just file that as a 1099 miscellaneous income, and you mark it as royalties, and that's it. It'll just go into your total income. No big deal. And like I said, you do technically have to report anything that's like a penny as income, but you just keep track of it. It is no big deal at all to file the taxes. You just file it in miscellaneous 1099 royalties, and it's just extra income through those. And if they need to see one, sometimes you can get a 1099 actually from DriveThru or Amazon. Sometimes you don't. You just type it in if you're using like TurboTax or 1040.com or whatever some of those things are. So yeah, totally simple to do taxes. What are the best ways to get your book noticed if you publish through Amazon? Okay, so this is the big trick, right? Getting your stuff noticed, right? So advertising in today's world, we can self-publish, but how do you get it noticed? On Amazon, I use Amazon ads. I really dove into Amazon ads and I really use those. And I use those a lot to get my stuff noticed on Amazon. And that's a whole different can of worms to really understand how to use Amazon ads. But you can also, if you still want to keep things, if you're starting out, like I couldn't have afforded that when I first started out, but then if you're just starting out, you want to make sure your Amazon page, your detail page, I think they call it, or a product page or book listing page, you want to make sure that is optimized the best you can. You want to make sure your title's optimized, your subtitles optimized, that your description is optimized for SEO, as well as, to help readers buy it. The best way to get noticed too is to have just a plain awesome cover, just an awesome cover that people, look at, know it's for a role-playing game or something like that. So awesome cover, detail your, fix your detail page to make sure it's optimized for SEO as well as for readers. So those are the ways to get noticed on Amazon. Any help on how to get noticed? How do I increase my visibility? Yeah, those are the big questions. I did a presentation on marketing at a con a couple years ago, and like nobody showed up. So I figured nobody cares about marketing. But really, the self-publishing game is 20% publishing your book and 80% marketing. How do you increase your visibility? How do you get noticed? Well, that is the big trick, right? And there are all kinds of different strategies, from social media to going to cons, talking about your books. And it's, like I said, it's kind of really hard to get into, but like, say if you're publishing on Drive Through RPG, kind of the same things about Amazon made the same sense. They make the same sense. Like, make sure your page is optimized, make sure your title's good, make sure you have a good subtitle, make sure that your description really sells the book, that it really hooks people and really sells the book. And then also, Drive-Thru RPG has some great tools. You can email your customers, you can put your book in for sales, you can send your book out for reviews. So you're going to have to do a lot of those things as well. And then also, you can go to conventions and give seminars like I'm doing right now. So hopefully you're learning about some of my books, even though I'm trying to help some of you guys out. So there's a lot of things. Marketing is a whole nother can of worms. Do you hire anyone else to do an editing pass of any type before you publish? When I first started, no. I didn't even have anybody proofread it, and I published things that had tons of errors in them, and that was the best I could do. That was the best I could do at the time. And but now, do I? Yes. Now I do hire some people to go through it and do an editing pass. And if I can't hire anybody, like if I don't know the product is good, or or not good necessarily, but if I don't know if it's going to be a good seller, I should say, frankly, I'll have my wife do a pass, an editing pass over it now. She was a school teacher, and she is good at that. But if I hire somebody, I have been actually a young guy who's joined our gaming group. He is a phenomenal. He is phenomenal at grammar and proofreading, and I will hire him. I will give him like $50 or something to go over the whole book, and he does a fantastic job. And he's young, so he is willing to work for $50 or $100 here and there if I could throw him that. But before I had that, I just proofread it myself. I ran it through Google, spell check, and Grammarly, free Grammarly, not the paid one, and then just put it out, and hopefully I got them. But it just all depends on what you can do and what you're and how much you're able to spend. Okay, so from Bill, any recommendations for things like finding freelance editors or sensitivity readers? Are sites like Fiverr good for that, or does the quality vary too much? Yeah, I don't really have too much advice on these. I think there are sites that have editors. For my novel, when I published my novel, I hired a professional editor to go through my novel because that was really important. And I used a site called Reedsy, Reedsy, Reedsy. And I found a fantastic editor on there. Sensitivity readers, yeah, I've never really done that. Fiverr, I've used Fiverr for other things in the past. Fiverr is hit or miss, really. But I've never gone to them for editing and stuff. I'm still, even though I'm fairly advanced right now, I still do a lot of this stuff just myself, because I try to keep my costs as low as possible. So I still do a lot of this stuff myself. So I hope that hopefully that helped. Please share an example of your first published work, experience, outcome, etc. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so my first book, you can still see it on Amazon. It's called Anarchy. It is a campaign setting for the OpenD6 system. And if you go to Amazon, you can just and look my name up, or type in Dice Geeks or something like that. You should be able to find it. It was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. This is the book that I wanted to put my friend's name in, who passed away. and I didn't know about stock images or anything. So the cover is black. The fonts are just normal fonts that I had in Word. Like I didn't understand anything. On the back cover, there was a huge typo that was just in there, and like I didn't even like see it. Like some of the layout and stuff was just very confusing. So it was definitely, and that first book, right, it took forever for me to do it. It took from like 2014, the middle of 2014 to the end of 2015 to get the book up on Amazon and Drive-Thru RPG, just because I had to learn all this stuff. And the outcome from it is, it didn't do well, right? Like I put it out and I like shared it on Reddit, and I told the story, and I sold like, 5 copies maybe or something. And not on Amazon. I sold only like 1 or 2 on Amazon. I sold a few on Drive-Thru. But what I didn't realize, right? I mean, hardly anybody plays Open D6. Some people didn't want a post-apocalyptic setting. So it's a niche of a niche, right? So it was pretty small there. But from there, I just realized that this is what I had wanted to do. So I just kind of dove into it and started thinking about other products and other things, other ideas that I had had for years. And now I knew the process. I learned the process, and I was able just to start going through the process. I kind of got a little less ambitious. Instead of putting out a whole campaign setting, I kind of pulled back and I did some smaller things. And then I started releasing those mainly on Drive-Thru RPG, and kind of got some more experience kind of under my belt there. So that's an experience. So Anna says, when it comes to sensitivity information, I like to read Writing with Color on Tumblr. Okay, so there's a resource there. They don't usually do ask, but they are awesome to read through for your own education and ideas. So here's a resource there for any kind of sensitivity ideas. You can check that out in chat. All right. At what point do you officially file your company as a company, like an LLC or sole proprietorship? What is the easiest name to register your company name and become official? Okay, so this is again, I can only talk about United States. Also, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney. Please don't. This is not official stuff, but you are already a sole proprietorship in the United States, right? Like if I make like a craft thing of like a sock monkey, and I sell that to my neighbor, I'm a sole proprietorship, right? So like I don't have to file anything to do anything to become a sole proprietorship. Like forming an LLC, I mean, I haven't even done that yet. I mean, I probably should by now, but like I would wait for the LLC until you're making a couple grand a month or something like that, unless you're a lawyer and you just do it all then or whatever. Because I would wait until you're making a couple grand a month to even think about an LLC, because the protections, right? Like we're not, I'm not selling fighter jets or something, right? Like there's not a big liability issue for me, right? Like if you don't like my book, well, you can leave a 1-star review and I could give you your money back or something if that's what you want. So like the liability is not huge, right? Nobody's gonna like lose their life because they downloaded my PDF from Drive-Thru RPG. So you don't need too much liability. But if you start making a couple grand a month, you should probably think about it. Easiest name to register: name, company name, become official. Usually whatever state you're in. Again, I'm talking about America here, United States. My state is Missouri. There's a doing business as or fictitious name. It's $7 here in Missouri. I just went online to usually the Secretary of State of your state. I just went onto the website, got the, filled out the form online, paid $7, and now I could start a bank account with Dice Geeks, but I'm still a sole proprietorship. So it's pretty simple here in the States. I have no idea about any other countries. So you can post free small adventures except at Drive-Thru or DM's Guild, and include links right into the PDF to your paid products as an ad page in the back. Yeah, so that's what I do all the time. Dale here is giving you a great strategy. you post something for free, you put your ads, put links in it to your paid products, and that is another way to get your name out in front of everybody. You are quite welcome. A writer I follow has patrons read his books for edits. Yeah, if you have a lot of patrons on Patreon, you can have those people read your books and for edits. That would be amazing. All right, Drive Through RPG and DMs Guild and Hope for TTRPGs have discords where you can find editors, sensitivity readers, etc. Okay, so those are some good resources, and yes, they do have discords, so I'm sure those would be great resources for everybody out there. Thank you so much for posting that. When the editor said make changes, was it hard to alter your work, Paula? Well, like I said, I usually my role-playing game stuff is just proofreading. So if I, if I make a grammatical error, spell a word wrong, I want you to change it, right? So that's not a big deal. My novel was a little interesting because the editor did come back with some changes. Basically, the editor that I hired on Reedsy was not cheap, by the way, but he's a pro. And because I'm at a different place now, right? If I was starting out, I couldn't have done this, but I'm in a different place now. The editor I hired on Reedsy for my novel, he came back with some changes, and he had some very good reasons for them. And I basically just accepted all of his suggestions because they made absolute sense, right? Like they were clarity issues. They were things that like people wouldn't understand. Like he was like, I'm confused here. How does this relate? And then I'm like, oh, of course. Well, I need to connect this. So that was a failing on my part. So, so that's the biggest changes, that I had to make for my book. It wasn't like, oh, it wasn't something like, oh, drop out this whole extra plot line or something like that. I didn't get suggestions like that. So that's where I'm at. With that. Well, Will says, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, perseverance. Yeah, you got to know why you're doing this. Yeah, you got to know why you're doing this. So Donnie asks, any love for an itch.io as self-publisher? I've seen recent charity bundles bringing a lot of games to my attention that I would have not otherwise found. Seems like an interesting way to pool communal RPG audiences. Yeah, itch.io, I've put like one thing up there. I don't know itch very well at all, so I can't really speak to that. It is growing, and I'm seeing it more and more as well, so I probably should look into it more, but I haven't, so I can't really speak to that too much. If you have any questions regarding business aspects and IP law, look up a law firm that specializes in such things. There are numerous firms for such things. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you have, if you have a real question about something that is big, you should get a professional to look into it. But, there are some pretty simple things, right? Like some things, we usually tend to want to make things out bigger than they are, right? Like, in the United States, right? If you publish something, it is copyrighted. You can put the copyright symbol on it. You can do all of that and copyright it. You don't have to, you don't have to spend the $75 to get the official one. If you want to sue somebody, you'll have to file, but you can file after or, right before you file your lawsuit. So you can do that. The tax thing, I meet a lot of people who aren't publishing and haven't made any money through it, and they're like, what are the taxes about? Well, taxes are easy. It's the IRS here makes it easy to send you money. Easy for you to send them money. So it's really easy to report that income, and you can just kind of relax about that. It becomes a little bit more complicated if you were to quit your job and rely on your income, solely, to rely on that solely as your income. But otherwise, things are pretty simple, especially starting out. If you have questions about like the open gaming license or what you can publish on the DMs Guild or what you can publish on Drive-Thru RPG, they have a layout of exactly what you can publish on there. If you want to use the name Eberron, well, you have to be on DM's Guild. If you publish something using the name Eberron on Drive-Thru RPG, you're probably going to get it taken down, or you could get served with a cease and desist or a lawsuit, depending. But if you publish something with the word Eberron and you use Eberron all over the place and you use their artwork and all that stuff on DM's Guild, you're fine, because that's the place where they're allowing you to do that. So if you want to dive into IP, or if you're going to use the open gaming license, it is important to kind of read through it. If you don't understand, exactly what it is, then I would ask, you should probably get somebody who an attorney or somebody who publishes under the OGL a lot, and ask them for advice. Somebody says itch.io has a much larger audience for video games, an easy platform to put things on for hobby purposes, not a great platform for business purposes, good for games because it's DRM free. So yeah, I know it is popular for video games. Like I said, I can't really speak to it much. I'm still kind of learning about it, but I know it is gaining in popularity. Original ideas should be protected. So Joe says original ideas especially should be protected. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, but here's the thing too, right? Like when I first started publishing, I did not have, I just did not have the $75 that I could register the copyright. So in the United States, at least, you can just put the copyright on there. You put the copyright symbol on there, and it is protected. It is protected. Now, if you, like I said, if you wanted to bring a lawsuit against somebody, then you would just file retroactively. You would just file, that $75 later with the Copyright Office. And that would be fine. That's totally fine. No problem there. But yeah, you should protect your stuff. If you're writing original content, put copyright on it. That's definitely right. Know your rights. But I will say, not to have it too long on this, your stuff will be stolen, right? There's a website, which I won't mention its name, that scrapes Drive-Thru RPG and puts all their stuff up for free. And, I don't like that. I've found my book on websites that like you just wouldn't even believe. I found some of my books on them. So your stuff will be stolen. Just don't let that discourage you. Okay. Because it's usually not that big of a deal. Most people understand that paying for it is okay. That's the better for the creator. So just kind of, it's just like bad reviews and stuff. It's just part of the experience. And if somebody wants to download my book for free off of a site, that looks shady, you're probably going to get a virus and it's going to destroy your computer. So if you want to go that route, you can, or you can throw me like $1 or $2, because I have products that are, as cheap as like $3 and $2 and stuff. So you could just throw me a couple bucks and then, not get a virus. What's your development process like for a new project? It kind of varies sometimes. There's a few products. I have a campaign setting out for 5e that was just like, I had this idea when I was like 12, and I was just like, well, heck, I'm doing it. And so I kind of started laying out what I needed to know for the OGL, and what I kind of, just started laying out what I needed to write, and kind of just going through, what I needed to do to get it to a playable point. And other ones, I do a lot of random tables. I create the books of random tables. I have 17 books in that series of random tables. Like my development process for one of those books is just fairly simple. It's just like, I know I need tables when I run games. I use random tables all the time when I game master. So I know I need these certain tables. So I'll make a list. I'll make a list of those tables that I need. I'll start creating some of those. I'll, as I'm playing or running sessions, I'll try to think about things and make notes. and start kind of compiling those. And then, I've got it down to a pretty good system right now. I have my templates in my program where I can lay it out and everything like that. So, but at first, my product process was terrible, right? Like I had to learn this, each step of the way. So it kind of varies. It'll be different for you. I'll tell you that right now. But like, you want to have a core idea. What makes it intelligible to other human beings, right? Like what I realized when I did my game Anarchy, right? Like I pulled out some of my old notes and some of my old computer files from back in the day, and I was like, I could run this, but no other human being could tell what I'm talking about here. So really making sure that, process. And then when I look at my covers, I take time to try out, some different ideas for covers. I'm not a designer, but I design my covers, so I think about what I need and how, what would look right for this book, or what kind of feel I want to go for that. So that's kind of some of the ideas of the development process. Harry asks, my question is, could you ballpark what kind of sales to expect for original indie solo style RPG products, Quill, for example? I'm familiar with Quill. I don't know what they would sell at all. I do apologize. You might email him, right? What is it, Troll Lord Games or something? I can't remember. It might be wrong, but like probably just email him and ask him. But I think like Quill is like pay what you want, and pay what you want has perks, and it has has pros and cons like everything in life. But yeah, so I really couldn't tell you what they're making off of Quill, and I've never done a solo kind of RPG either. So yeah, I just don't know. But I would try emailing him, the creator of Quill, and he might even tell you. And then Aiden asks, any tips for using the OGL? Well, I've only done one product that's explicitly under the OGL for like D&D. Then I've done Anarchy, which is under the OGL for the open D6 system, and then I published only one on DM's Guild, which is uses the open gaming license and their community content over there. I mean, tips for using the OGL. I mean, it's just make sure you're delineating out what content. One of the key things, if you read the fine print, is just like you need to just make sure there's a difference between like the OGL content that you're using and what you're releasing into the OGL is really big. So like, I wrote an original a campaign setting. There is IP in there that I protect, that I want to protect, and I make it clear that that is not in the OGL. But, I used some OGL content to make a new monster. Well, I'm just going to release that into the OGL because anybody can use it, because it doesn't bother me. So understanding what's in the OGL when you're creating it, what I'm protecting, those things that would be the biggest trick right there with the OGL. But the OGL is awesome, so it's great. Any other questions? Just please type them into chat and I will answer them really quickly. I'll take a sip of water. We still have about 8 minutes. Any other questions? Hopefully I didn't confuse you more. Yes. All right, Joe, hit me. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody too much, but hopefully I've been helpful with some of this. And like I said, I can't judge everybody's skill level, so I made the content kind of basic at first. So right. Okay. So now we're getting questions flying in. Okay. What are your feelings on free resources like Dice and Logos for maps? Yes. Yes, I use Dyson Logos maps. Absolutely. I created a whole book around some of Dyson's maps. And I just went to Drive Through RPG and I bought the community. He has a pack on there of commercial maps. I know you can get them for free if you want to go through his website and download them like one by one. But I just went on there and bought it for like 20 bucks. And I built a whole product around it. It's called Dungeons, 51 Dungeons. So I changed the names. I just used the map. I changed the names, and then I added a page of material, of my own material about history and all kinds of cool stuff about the dungeons, and I use them. So yes, all kinds of resources like that are awesome, awesome, awesome. Any kind of, stock artwork, maps that can be used commercially, awesome. Use it. Okay, well, Anna, thank you. Thank you for being here. I just saw that Amazon KDP now does hardcovers. Do you know how they are in terms of quality? Yes. So KDP, for those who don't know, is Kindle Direct Publishing. That is Amazon's self-publishing arm that you can go through. They have started offering hardcovers. I've only done one hardcover through them right now. That is my novel. I put my novel in a hardcover. The quality is great. The quality is fine on the hardcovers. They're really good. So they are about the quality that that Ingram does. Through Drive Through RPG. What are good ways to market your product at a con if you don't have a booth? Boy, well, if you don't have a booth, you're going to be kind of in trouble. You can do presentations. You could do a seminar. You could hand out your business card to some people, but if you don't buy a booth, you're usually not allowed to like hand out flyers or market at a con. So I would definitely recommend networking, get to know people. That would probably be the best way. Talk to people who publish books, ask them questions, be friendly, network, kind of build your network, if you don't have a booth at a con. You recommended that we start small. How small? Very small. A one page thing. Like if you want to focus on the DMs Guild, put out a new background for a 5e character and just put out one page, like a one-page PDF, and see how that goes, and learn your experience. Learn from that experience. If you're doing on Drive Through RPG and you have an idea for a short adventure, well, then do something short, like 3 pages, right? Like don't kill yourself. Just like do something super small, release it only as digital at first. And that way, you can do that for free. So you can just do that for free. It'll take you time, but you can definitely do that. Have you considered parlaying into board game creation, print, play, etc.? Not really. I haven't really thought about board games too much. I love board games, but I don't get to play. I usually role play. If I get a chance to play a game, I want to role play. So I haven't really done board game creation. I do now have, if you mean print, for like print books, most of my books now are available in paperback or hardback because I've really transitioned into that. Well, you're welcome, Laura. Harry, this panel was inspirational. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thanks, Joe. Any other questions? We got 3 minutes left. I'm glad it was inspirational. It can be done. It's not easy. Like I said, it's easier than ever, but it's still not easy. So any quick questions, before we close out, just a couple more minutes. Like I said at the beginning, some of those things, keep those in mind. Like, don't get overwhelmed. Bite off bite-sized chunks, just take a little bit of chunk and keep kind of going, moving forward. Well, thank you. Thank you for attending the one later on today. Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I got you motivated. Thank you so much. And no problem. It's my pleasure. And hopefully, like I said, everybody got something out of this. If you want to check out my resources, you definitely can. At dicegeeks.com, you can see how I publish. And you can see examples of a lot of my books there. And then, yes, I do have another seminar coming up later today. Dipping my toe into RPG publishing, very helpful. Thank you, Daryl. Learned a lot. Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Aiden. Will the recording of this seminar be available? I think so. I think I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, which has very little there right now. It has my podcast, and that's about it on there now. So I think I am going to put this on my YouTube channel. So thank you. No problem. Thank you for attending, everyone. So we are about down to the last minute. I guess I've answered all of your questions, and you don't have any more questions. Well, if you do have any more questions, I guess I can just I'll just put my email. What is your YouTube channel called? It is just Dice Geeks. Everything is Dice Geeks, one word. Everything is just yeah, Dice Geeks, one word. Also here. No, well, I didn't mean that to be a direct message to somebody. I'll send it to everyone here. Here's my email address. If you have questions or you want some other links, just drop me a line and I'll see what I can do. All right, well, it is 10 a.m. Thank you so much for joining, and we will go ahead and close out here. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you all this morning. Thank you.